Hey there. So, this is going to be kind of a commentary for the game I've been working on called Nightwalk. Um, I don't know. I'm probably not going to read the text. I'm probably just going to talk as I go, but we'll see. So, yeah, the point of this game is it's a text adventure with mini games scattered about. You're a guy and you're walking around this land. And why are you walking around this land? Well, that's for you to find out if the game is ever released. So yeah. Um, the reason I'm showing this game is just kind of demonstrate the progress I've made. I've been working on it probably for I don't know, probably 6 months at this point, part time. The tool I use to make the dialogue, I tried to do this like option thing myself at one point, and it's way impossible, dude. You need like visuals, like trying to program it without having like a visual drag and drop tool to create the dialogue. It's impossible. So I use this thing called Dialogue Editor for Unity. So it's made by Pixel Crushers. I think it's called Dialogue Editor for Unity. But anyway, if you look up Pixel Crushers, you'll see it. And it makes it so much easier. And it uses Lua scripts for some stuff, so that makes it easy too. So this scene on the right here with the trees, it's fully generated. Okay, the one thing that's not generated are the stars. And it's hard to see, but if you look back here, you can see some trees. That's also a texture. All right, but these trees here that you see all around and the grass, that's all generated procedurally by Compute Shader I made. That's what you'll find as a trend throughout this game is it has a lot of compute shaders. And that's because I was kind of trying to practice it and make a portfolio at the same time. So we're about to enter our first mini game. Not always, but often the mini games have like a little thumbnail before going into it. And here's a mini game thumbnail for this next one called Log Crossing. So basically the way it works is I'm tilting my tablet right now to make my guy move. And the goal is to cross this log up here. I just have to press this cross it button. So let's do that. This log, it is a 3D model, but the texture itself is fully generated again by Compute Shader. That makes it really easy to reuse the mini game, which I don't yet, but I plan on doing it. While I'm going through this, one thing you'll notice is the border has a little bit of movement. That is another Compute Shader texture. So one goal here was to have the game run smoothly at 60 FPS on many devices. This device I have it on is the OnePlus tablet. But it can run on typical hardware from 2018 Android phones. So now we're about to go into our next mini game. It's called Totem Make. That's because you make totems. You'll see. Again, uses a compute shader for the little mud particles. The goal is to move all the mud particles out of the red, making like a totem shape. To make the totems is actually really easy. It uses an array of ones and zeros. It has 16 ones and zeros. And as you can see, you can dodge the goblin's hits, and there's some animations in the background and a few other things which are hidden, but I'll let you find. And I'm just going to stop here while I talk. So the array is an array of 16 ones and zeros, and every like index that there's a 1 is a red dot. As you can see, when he hits it, it resets the mud. So every time there's a 1 in an array, there's a red dot, and every time it's a 0, it's an empty. a red spot, and every time there's a 0, there's an empty spot. And the goal, which is calculated by the compute shader, is to just to get rid of all the red spots. One issue that I experienced while making this game was synchronizing between the GPU and CPU, because to beat the game and move on to the next totem, the CPU has to be active, but all of the things are done on the GPU. So there's an asynchronous, it's a function by Unity, an asynchronous like collaboration. Before I was using a synchronous collaboration, and it caused a lot of FPS issues. So basically, when you finish a totem, that a message is asynchronously sent from the GPU to the CPU, and then when the CPU is ready, it accepts that message, but the game still runs in the meantime. Before, the game would not run while it was waiting for that message. So there's like some, I guess, cutscenes in the game. You saw one of them at the beginning, and there's one more on the second night. But we're going to go into not a mini game, but a graphics. So it's not a game, but it's interactive. So this is Raymarch 3D Smoke. To spin around, you just rotate your device. Yeah. Not like you just tilt your device left to go this direction, and you tilt it right to go this direction. That's what it is. And anyway, like I said, the smoke is interactable. Again, another compute shader. The physics are something I custom made, which is not the case. Probably not for something I'll show in this video, but there's another part of this game called Rolling Mist, which again is not part of the game yet, but it is implemented, just not into the game, if that makes sense. Anyway, this uses custom physics particles, and you can play with the smoke with your finger. So there you go. And if you look at the logs, you'll notice that the animation of like the ember glowing also changes. That's another small compute shader. Now, there's no sounds or anything like this in the game yet, but I want to use a recorder, and I have my recorder next to me, so I'll just give you an example of what it might sound like. Hopefully I can get it good on the first try. So that's just a little example of what you might hear. I've had some people test the first night, so there's 3 nights to the game. So far, I only have the first night fully implemented and the second night partially implemented. And it takes people about 20 minutes to complete the first night. I'm the developer, so it takes me a little less time. But I've had 3 people test it, my mom, my dad, and my little sister. And it took them on average about 20 minutes, like 15 to 25. So yeah, let's go into the next night. There was one more thing I was going to say. Oh, yeah. For the smoke you just saw, one really difficult thing to have implemented was to have my finger, which is interacting with a 2D surface, like affect the 3D smoke. And like I had to shoot a ray from my finger into the smoke, but the problem was my finger wasn't actually interacting with the 3D scene. If you notice, everything's pixelated. And so I render the scene to a 2D plane, and the resolution is low, so it's pixelated. So my finger is actually interacting with the 2D plane, and so I have to transfer the 2D coordinates from the plane into the 3D scene, and then not only that, but I have to transfer it from the CPU into the GPU. And basically, what I ended up doing is I shot like a circular ray. So like basically, there's a circle around my finger, and then I just extrude that circle straight into the scene. And believe it or not, it took a lot of work, but I finally got it working. So yeah, that was the smoke scene. And here's another little cutscene, I guess. So while I was making this game, the ideal setting that I had in mind was that you're in your bed, like maybe just before you go to sleep. It's probably not like it's not supposed to be like a high intensity game. It's supposed to be kind of relaxing and a little bit somber, but it has a happy ending if it makes you feel better. Um, yeah, it's a very cynical person who is the character. Uh, but yeah, happy ending. And I know I'm going way too fast to probably read, so that's not really the point. I guess the point is just to show that it does have a lot of dialogue options, a lot of branching paths. You should see the branching paths. That's probably, honestly, out of everything, which is the hardest for me, is the dialogue. To just have so much of it while still attempting to make it interesting, it's hard. And it's a little grueling, even, I'll be honest. But I'm proud of what I've made so far. My family members and the one or two people besides that who've played it seem to enjoy it somewhat, so it's another compute shader. It's actually the same compute shader that what was there. It's the same compute shader as what's up here. This is literally just a blue image which covers this. So this is actually always here, this part, but it's just covered by other things. It's supposed to represent what you see like in your dreams. Um, so yeah, that's what I was going for. And we're almost at the end of what I have in the game as playable. There's still some other parts of the game which just aren't like put into the chain of dialogue. If that makes sense. So there's a uh, uh, there's mist on rolling mist on hills. There's the start of like an ant fight. That's another interesting thing. So if you look at the images around this, they're supposed to be representative of little mini games you'll see. Um, so yeah. So this scene here, it's not the only scene that's going to be generated. Um, there's going to be a plane scene as well as a city scene, I believe. Um, so this is just for while you're in the forest. Um, yeah, so I've been working on this for about the last 6 months. Um, it's had a lot of iterations. But I think I'm at a point now where I've been at the point for, I don't know, probably a while. It probably took me a month to get it where like, okay, this is the direction I want to go. And then I've been just kind of working on all the things for the past 5. And I only work on it part-time because I have a part-time job. And I'm not going to finish it actually. My goal was to work on it for a year and then go get a job like in my computer science field. But unfortunately, circumstances just haven't worked out that way for a few reasons. My brother needs a roommate, So I'm moving down to California, and obviously I need a job. So I'm looking for a computer science job in California. And then on top of that, I really want a partner. I'm not gonna lie to you. Working on this alone has been pretty grueling. I do enjoy it, but it's just like I really would like a partner. Um, Not for like the technical aspect, but having someone to help with the work would be great. Um, but just like a company aspect really, and someone to bounce ideas off of, and someone to be motivated and share motivation. So yeah. So this is a custom light model I made. Um, I think I'm running out of time here. Then it's a generated normal map. It's not generated. I made it in Blender. But like I generated it in Blender is what I mean. And anyway, it's not like an actual rock. It's something I made in 3D modeling software that I then turned into a normal map. But the writing or like the drawings and the cow and like these things here, that's actually hand drawn as well as this text. It's a hand drawn normal map, and that took a lot of time. That was hard. To like just have the different angles. Like I had to have a little palette while I did it. But yeah, so that's hand drawn. The background's generated, and that's it. That's all I got. Again, there are more parts to the game which are made, just they aren't put into this chain of dialogue that I have going. And that's Nightwalk. I am gonna keep working on it. I'm definitely not giving up. This is something I want to publish pretty badly. I really feel the story. I really like the idea of this text adventure mixed with mini games, and I just enjoy like these compute shaders, like challenges, like these like little interactive art pieces. I like that a lot. I even honestly I like it more than making the game itself. If I could, I would just have it be all that with little dialogue connecting it, and that was the original plan. But unfortunately, it takes too long, and the game would be like 5 minutes instead of the hour that it probably would be with the dialogue. And it's not that the dialogue makes it good. It's not bad. I think it'd be better if it were all just graphics. And I wouldn't even have any games to be honest. I would just have it be all graphics, interactive graphics. But I think the games and the text, they add something and they allow it to have, while still satisfying me somewhat, just not as much. They do allow the game to be lengthened, and I think more enjoyable in the end. I prefer a longer game over like a 5 minute game. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense. But basically, if I had the manpower and the motivation, I would have it all be graphics with little uh, text interactions just to travel around the map. But yeah, that's it. That's Nightwalk. Okay, so thanks for watching if you made it this far. Peace.